I would say of all of these designers, all of whom are, you know, incredibly influential, the one who I could most directly say I'm in video games because of this guy is actually John Carmack.
I owe a certain amount of motivation to John Carmack and John Romero because when I was a teenager and I was making, you know, goofy little adventure games and they were just kicking ass on the PC side with Wolfenstein and Doom, I wanted to be that. I wanted that level of success.
He probably is the smartest guy that I've ever met in my life. Unlike a lot of other smart people that I've met is that he really has a drive and dedication and a love for what he does. And literally, if he didn't get paid a penny to program software and work in the games business, he would still do it.
I think there's definitely a before Doom and after Doom in gaming. And no matter what platform I own, I buy Doom for it. If they made Doom for my nav system on my car, I would have Doom for it. I just think it is by far probably one of the greatest games ever made.
Yu Suzuki is a pretty big inspiration as well. I mean, obviously, Shenmue is, I think that folks don't realize how impressive a game it actually was. It seemed to get a lot of flack at the time, but it was really an amazing game. Also, his historic stuff, like Daytona, all the growing up in the arcades. You didn't realize they didn't really tell you on the machine whose name it was, but his name was on a lot of machines.
Those of you who love driving games, and I would be one of them, you is our guy. You kept making great driving games time after time after time. He made other great games, but boy, it's really hard to argue with the quality of his driving games. And in the coin-op business, that was perennially 30% of the coin-op business. So again, you laid a groundwork that the rest of us really stand on.
We are sucky at thinking about our history. Games are old enough now that we should be worrying and thinking about documenting our history.
What they did was more than any of us in this business created the foundation that we could be here. Without Ralph, without Ed, there would be no business for us.
It's time to give them their Lifetime Achievement Awards. It's really time to say thank you back to these people.
Mikami, he has worked on some of the really great games like the Resident Evil series and other stuff, but the range of stuff he does, like God Hand, but One of My was one of them, but Beautiful Joe was just such a fresh, cool, it's a video game, but it was so hard, so just eclectic and crazy, but really inspiring. I thought that was a game I really enjoyed.
Mikami-san is a creator who is committed to making new and revolutionary products and to always coming up with things that are new. And anytime he comes up with a new game, I think that has a huge influence across the industry.
I'm sitting at the Video Games Live, and to my right, we're signing autographs. To my right is Kojima. To his right is Stan Lee, the creator of SpiderMan. There's a big long line of people getting autographs, and it's all going very well. However, Stan Lee's line runs out, whereas Hideo Kojima's line is still, has a vanishing point. And those people are coming up, and they're having him sign everything they own. Like, can you sign my wallet? Can you sign my PSP? Can you sign my DS? Can you sign the games that I brought? And Stan Lee is sitting there watching this. You can see him looking at his watch, and then he leans over to me and he goes, "Who is this guy?"
Gunpei Yokoi, designer of Metroid and Super Metroid, had its profound influence on what we do at Insomniac, mostly because Ratchet & Clank drew heavily from the kinds of weapons/gadget system that Metroid used. And it wasn't overtly drawn, but I think all of us had been heavily influenced by those games. And I think subconsciously, those influences leaked into Ratchet.
I remember a moment in one of Sakaguchi-san's games, Final Fantasy VII, where Aeris dies, and you felt something. You felt emotionally engaged, and you felt betrayed. You felt a range of emotions. And I remember thinking, that is awesome. That is what games are all about. If you could sustain that moment and continue that moment, have a game full of those kinds of moments, that is high art. That is emotionally engaging gameplay that, I think that's what we're striving for.
I had the opportunity to be on a panel with Will Wright. Man, it was probably 6-7 years ago at E3, and sort of instantly realized that I was not in his league on this panel. His ability to break down how people viewed games and had fun with them, just pure fun and play, was really interesting. And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, the difference between games and other entertainment is when you do something in a game, you can actually feel proud.
He's made these games that are unlike anyone else's games, and followed kind of his own path. I think that's very inspiring, that he's just done his own thing, you know, and not really worried about, you know, trying to make games for someone else.
He had all these crazy sim games. They're really, all really cool, and I mean, I think SimAnt and SimEarth as well were ones that I'd played. You know, obviously SimCity, but I really like the odd ones that just were just totally creative, and I think his work's always been just so far ahead in many ways, and you know, he's just done a great job.
He's actually thinking about everything to do with psychology, everything to do with physics, everything to do with space, whatever. He's studying all these fields and then bringing those alive into his games.
When I was in college, actually, I worked at a summer program, and I taught 2 courses. I taught Kung Fu and Pirates. And for the Pirates course, I actually used Sid Meiers Pirates as the curriculum. And you know, looking back, some of the greatest games I've played have been Sid Meier games.
I mean, Sid is a charming guy. You know, he's a good friend, and I think he's, you know, as close to genius as we're going to find in our industry. And he comes from an earlier day. You know, he sort of made that transition from almost board games, because he was making games in the Atari 800. And he's from Switzerland originally, his family is, and he's kind of like a little Swiss guy who's a clockmaker, and he makes toys like they make clocks and watches.
The very first game I ever designed, I basically cribbed almost directly my design from Sid's F-15 Strike Eagle design. And Sid, more than anybody I know, in that era, was desperately trying to make games that people could figure out how to use. And so I learned a lot from that characteristic of him.
It's interesting to see what the visionaries, what these you know, the men who drive our industry, what sort of little details that they can pick up when they look at a game. I mean, these little things that the rest of us just completely don't get. And there's a reason they are who they are, and it's because they see everything.